Mia Khalifa. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's so crazy that you are here, and I'm so excited to have you on. I want to start by talking about our story together and how we discovered each other, how this came to be, and like why are we here today. You go first.
I will go first. Okay, so when everything broke out with Call Her Daddy last year,
Right.
I started seeing things about it pop up on my For You page on TikTok. And I became obsessed. Like,
my God.
obsessed. Consumed everything I could about it. I needed to know every single detail. And I was just so inspired by your strength through it all and the way you handled everything. And especially by that first video you did when you came back.
The YouTube.
Yes, that YouTube video was
Chef's kiss.
my God.
Thank
I
you.
think I saw someone parody it after the Oprah interview saying, like, they photoshopped the Queen onto your face, saying
What?
the Queen after she watches this interview.
Wait, I did not see that.
It was hilarious. Like, it was incredible. You showed so much strength,
Thank
and
you.
you made me a Call Her Daddy fan.
That's amazing to hear because well, thank you, first of all. I had always knew who you were. And then I remember going to follow you and seeing that you followed me. And I went to DM you then because I'm like, I need to have this girl on the show. And then I saw that you had already DM'd me.
Yeah.
And your DM to me was unbelievable. So thank you so much. It was basically explaining exactly kind of what she said about the video.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I just wanted to I knew you wouldn't see it because at that time you were just getting completely blown up. It was.
I
at
love
the
how you
height
say
of
that and you have like
everything.
20 million followers. You're like, I just like didn't know if you're going to see it. I'm surprised you even know who I am. So thank you very much,
I think
Mia.
I started it with, "You'll never see this, but
Yeah, no.
I'm a big fan."
So thank you. And I'm a huge fan. To give anyone context right now, Daddy Gang listening, I am sitting with Mia in her house right now. And we hung out last night, which I think was crucial for this interview because we wanted to kind of go through what Mia is going to be comfortable talking about, not talking about, and just so it can be an enjoyable experience for both of us and something that you're proud of and you want to put on the internet. Because I've seen some of your past interviews and the people that interview are fucking assholes. I'm like, what the fuck are these people doing? So I want to give you hopefully a different experience today. But as we kind of delve into some topics, some are going to be fun Call Her Daddy topics and some will be more serious topics. But I just wanted to tell the Daddy Gang that Mia and I have had a conversation about what she's comfortable talking about today. And the themes that we're going to be talking about, hopefully a lot of you will be able to relate. So I want to kind of go through, Mia, you just explaining like your childhood and just where you're from and just giving a little bit of background on like who you are in case people don't know who you are.
Okay. I moved to America in 2001 from Lebanon, and I grew up as one of the very few brown people in Montgomery County in the school that I went to. It was me and a couple Indian kids, and that was it. I was the odd one out. And everyone was white and Jewish, and I wanted to have a bar mitzvah, and I wanted to do all of these things that everyone else was doing and eat the peanut butter jelly sandwiches in my lunch bag like everyone else. And there was a lot of bullying and a lot of things that ensued after 9/11 happened. So my childhood was a little rough. I didn't have too many friends. I was also extremely overweight and just did not fit in anywhere.
Right.
Anywhere. So I turned inwards, and I don't know, I had a lot of shame over being different, not being attractive, not getting any positive attention or validation from myself. So I sought for it elsewhere, and by the time I was 16, I was dating someone who was 23, and
You were looking for validation through
Yeah.
men. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'd had a conversation about that last night. I think to kind of go through some of your childhood, I think thank you for sharing that because those are like all themes I think that a lot of people can relate to is one, being bullied at a young age significantly affects your mental health and the way that you look at yourself in your adolescent years, and then affects you if you don't get into therapy or you don't address it. It affects you throughout the rest of your life and the decisions that you make and the relationships that you get into. I can only imagine, like you're saying, so did you move here around the time of 9/11?
Yeah, in January. So by the time school started, 9/11 happened. And being in DC, did you grow up in New York?
No, but Pennsylvania, but
The Northeast.
The
The
Nor-
Northeast
yep.
in general,
Yep.
I think, was differently affected by 9/11 than the rest of America
100%.
because we didn't have school for like a week.
Yep.
We got sent home and did not go back for a week.
Did you do
And
those trainings of like if this ever happens again in school, like everyone was learning
Yeah.
how to like where to take cover in the like rooms? It was crazy.
Yeah,
in
code red
school.
drills.
Yep. And everyone brought like lunch boxes that you have to like pack to like have in case it was crazy times in the Northeast.
Isn't it so wild that we look at like the Red Scare and how kids were hiding under their desks? Like,
my
oh my
God.
God, I can't believe they did that. Meanwhile, we're putting up cardboard over the small window in the classroom
Right.
in case there's an active shooter or something.
Times have changed, but it's kind of
Same,
the same
same, but
theme.
different.
Yeah, same but different. So was it for you? Was it so hard coming from where you came from to then come to the United States and then to be in the United States around that time at such a young age? Like, did you deal with bullying around not being from America?
Yeah, the accent I didn't lose until like probably middle school. So there was
Okay.
bullying surrounding that. There was bullying surrounding the way I looked, the way I acted, the food I brought to school.
was just
Basically
all-
everything. I
yeah.
just did, I didn't know anything else. So I didn't know if I would ever fit in anywhere. I thought everywhere was like this.
So you felt very isolated.
Very.
So you said you grew up sort of from like not a military background, but you did go to military school,
Yeah,
etc.
for high school.
So you were kind of on like I wouldn't say like a straight and narrow path, but you definitely were not living in a way that like your eyes were on you, your parents not were strict, but like you're going to military school,
Yeah.
and so when you get to your adolescent years, you go to college. And like can you talk about your experience with weight in college and like the transition from feeling like insecure and not confident in yourself and then having that body image changing in college to getting your boob job?
Oh, the crazy thing is my body image didn't change until maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Even after I lost all the weight between those few years after high school and my early 20s, I thought it would fix everything. I thought it was my boobs that made me feel so low and
yeah.
so self-conscious about myself. But
Right.
after I got my boob, that one was a breast lift and implants.
Oh,
Because of my drastic weight loss.
got it.
I had 34 triple Ds and then I lost 60 pounds and I had 32 A's, but I had all of this excess skin to the point where the doctor couldn't put implants in, otherwise my nipples would face like my toes. So they had to do a lift and then put implants in.
And did the weight loss also affect other parts of your body, not just your boobs?
Yes, so many parts. Like,
Got it.
yes.
So, and was that a journey too to try
Yeah.
to get back to like what you wanted? Was that hard for you to struggle with?
It was really hard for me to struggle with, especially having so many friends my age,
Right.
seeing their bodies compared to mine. I looked like I had 3 kids. Like I still have all of this excess skin and the stretch marks I don't care about. It's what my skin does when I sit and when I move certain ways that you can tell that's like there's no way to fix that other than having it surgically removed.
Right.
And I lost the weight in the worst possible way.
What do you mean? How did you do it?
Not eating, just being completely unhealthy, abusing laxatives, just doing all of these things to put my body through the ringer and lose this weight so drastically.
Where were you like mentally in that state of your life?
Hated myself. I couldn't, there wasn't a version of me that I could see in the mirror and be okay with. I didn't see the person that was actually there in the mirror. Even though I had already lost 60 pounds, I looked like a completely different person. Wow. I still saw that chubby girl that I kind of hated and was ashamed of. And I didn't feel as pretty as I was. So whenever I got attention from men, I felt like I need to hold on to this. I'm going to lose it. I might not ever get it again. Like, I don't know when this will pass again. It's like a shooting star. I need to hold on to this and do whatever I can to make them happy so that I can keep getting this.
Because you hadn't gotten any of that while you were younger.
Yeah.
If anything, you were getting shamed about your body.
Yes,
So
exactly.
to get any type of positive reinforcement about the way that your body looked from a man was something that you had not experienced. So it was like something, again, I get what you're saying, you wanted to hold on to.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight to lose, obviously.
Yeah.
And we had talked last night a little bit about your struggle with body image and having openly saying you were comfortable talking about having an eating disorder. And I think so many women struggle with weight in general, but to acknowledge and understand that you have an eating disorder, like, can you kind of walk us through that journey and how you're saying it's been the past 4 years you started to really love yourself? Can you kind of talk us about like what that journey has been for you?
Therapy! I love therapy.
Dude,
There
when
is
you said
nothing
that
will
last
fix
night-
you like therapy.
Mia and I was like nervous to ask her because I'm like, oh God, like, is this rude to ask if she's
No,
in
we
therapy?
need to normalize asking people, yo, are you in therapy? Because I
Right?
don't want you in my life unless you're in therapy.
That-
Like, are you actively working on yourself?
Last night I looked at Mia and when she said yes, I was like, okay, now I fuck with you. This is amazing. We get along. And then to ask each other like, oh, are like our significant others in therapy? And we're like, absolutely. And
Yep.
I was like, I will never date another guy that isn't in therapy.
No, you're
'Cause
a
I'm like, you don't
child if
understand.
you're not in therapy.
Yes. So you got into, what age did you get into therapy?
2016,
Okay.
like 5 years ago. I was 23, 24 maybe.
Got it.
And it completely changed my life. And I've heard you say you need to try different therapists.
Totally.
And I fully agree with that.
It's like dating.
Yeah, it's like dating. It's like having a trainer. It's like having a dermatologist. Like you're not just going to mesh with the first one you go to.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So your experience with therapy has helped you dealing with that body image.
Not just the body image.
Well, a lot of other shit.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Everything seems to tie back to shame.
Yep.
It's the most powerful emotion a human can experience.
Yep.
It's crippling, it's debilitating, it can change the way you look at yourself, you look at others, it's the number one thing that you should probably work on if you have any other surrounding issues.
Yeah.
Everything leads back to shame.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. So Daddy Gang, Mia and I had a conversation. I think we're sitting here and obviously there is an event in your life that happened that I'm sure you're tired of talking about. And it has definitely affected your life. And everyone listening, you may or may not know about that event. We're not here to talk about the event. I almost want to start now, like after this big event, after this porn scene goes viral. Who was that girl the minute that goes viral and like from then to now? Because last night you were saying you're the happiest you've been in your life. To have the most isolating feeling, like you're alone, you have people sending you death threats, you have your family at the time not supporting you. Where was your head at? And like, how did you get here today? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people wouldn't have been able to get through that mentally. And your mental health, I'm wondering like, where were you mentally post that video?
So I don't know where I was because that is around the time that I started dissociating and just compartmentalizing everything and pretending like things never happened to the point where I didn't even talk about porn for the first like 3 years after. I just went quiet, never spoke about it. Anytime I would do an interview, that was the one thing they were not allowed to ask me about. I refused to even acknowledge that I did it. And it wasn't until therapy that I realized how detrimental that is. I can't just scooch things under the rug and hope that they go away. That's not how it works. You have to face them head on and acknowledge them and talk about them. It's that feeling of like, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to bring attention to it, but I need to talk about it because I need to explain myself because everyone is just misinterpreting the whole thing.
Right.
So it's that catch-22 of not wanting to bring it up and needing to bring it up because it's like the elephant in the room everywhere you go.
Right. I remember last night you saying like you're at first your pseudo name Mia at first was like hard for you at times to hear because you're like, oh my God, it probably brought you back to those days in porn and being like, I don't really want to associate with that person. We were joking, it was almost like the Miley Cyrus Hannah Montana effect where like you're living two different lives.
Yeah.
And that mentally can fuck with someone.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm saying like at times on my show I act a certain way and then behind closed doors if I'm a certain way, like if you're living two different lives, it can directly affect your mental health. And it's like, well, who do you address first, Mia or who you actually are? And like how much of Mia is you? So I guess I'm trying to understand, like, as a young woman feeling so alone in those moments, like if you were kind of not thinking about it, what were you doing in your life post that video? Like, where did you go? Like, what were you doing? How were you making money?
I was working as a paralegal at a law firm, and then I was working as a bookkeeper at a construction firm, and then I was like, okay, I'm tired of living in this $500 a month efficiency. It was disgusting. It was so bad. Cockroach infested. It was the worst times of my entire life.
And you were not really making money?
No.
And that was like such a topic on the internet of like, how is this girl lying about how much money she was making, which I know you were vocal about how you basically didn't make any money from the videos that you made, and then they ended up making so much money, and like whatever, that topic was I'm sure hard for you because then you're living and slumming it
Yeah.
in a place that you're like, everyone thinks I've made it. Like I don't have shit to
I
my
have like
name
2
right
million
now.
followers on Instagram. Everyone thinks I'm living it up. Like that is not the case.
And you had lost your Instagram.
I did, yeah. It got hacked.
When it got hacked.
And then I didn't create one for like a year, and then I created one in 2016 when I decided to move to Austin.
Why did you decide to come back to social media?
Because I knew at that point there is no turning back. Everyone knows who I am.
Right.
I can't work anywhere. That's why I left the law firm job. It was very uncomfortable for me to work there. Well, actually, the company dissolved, but I was very uncomfortable working there.
Can you explain that experience?
Yeah, it's very weird to go into a job interview thinking, oh, I'm just going to go back to normal life, and having the interviewer ask you if you did porn.
Right.
There's nothing.
Oh, you think they're asking you that because they knew?
Yes. Yeah, they
Got
recognized me. And I went to a couple interviews where some comments were made, and then I finally got a job at the law firm, and then I got a job working for a friend's company at the construction firm, and then I just realized
You feel uncomfortable.
I feel uncomfortable everywhere I go. Like, I can't be sent into the field. They have to be careful about who they let in the office because some subcontractors are creepy. Like,
Right.
I started to feel like a burden on the person who was taking a chance on me and giving me a job.
Wow. To say you felt like a burden to the people that were giving you a job.
Yeah.
You are an educated, smart woman who deserves to be at that job. You made a decision in your life that a lot of women make. I've made a sex tape with a boyfriend, and maybe it didn't happen to go viral, but there was a chance. People's nudes get released. People decide to do porn. And back to the point of you being a paralegal, the fact that you were a paralegal, Mia, like you're...
I didn't say I was a good one.
No, I know you were a good one. No, but I can tell you're a smart, educated woman. So like that was the first thing when I sat down with you last night. I was like, this girl's fucking smart.
I feel the same way about you.
So, but it's crazy to then think that you had to feel you couldn't fully get into a job and allow yourself to go full force at a job because you were being haunted by a decision you made in your past.
Yeah.
After you left and decided to get back into social media, what was your like mindset? Like, who did you want to present to the world? Were you thinking that you were going to have to completely remake yourself, or you knew people were going to comment? Like, how did you kind of strategize?
The way I got myself to Austin was I started camming. And I cammed in Austin for about a year before I decided, okay, I don't want to do anything nude ever again.
Can you explain camming to people that don't understand the concept?
It's just like, well, I had a very different experience with camming.
Okay.
I was probably the worst cam girl in history.
Mia, I love the authenticity.
I would leave the camera on in my empty room and hear like the tips go off, knowing that they're trying to get my attention to come back in, but I'd be watching Netflix in the living room.
Shut the fuck up. You're like, guys, this is an unbelievable episode of America's Next Top Model. I can't miss it. Hold your money. I'll be right back. So you were just like not invested in it.
No, no, the entire time I was doing it, I was trying to get my foot in the door doing other things. Like I was writing for this website called Fansided.
Oh,
I think their website hasn't been updated since like 2005. It's it's so bad. But I was writing this like weekly column of my top 7 picks in football and doing all of these things.
So you're trying to venture out while also being like, okay, I need to try to make a living, and I'll try to do camming while I'm trying to figure out where can I place myself and where will I be able to fit in, not something sexually oriented.
Yeah. And Complex took a chance on me, and they gave me a little gig hosting a show with my hero, Gilbert Arenas.
That's amazing also.
Yeah, it went well.
So you're living in Austin. You go from camming, trying to now find jobs. You get a couple gigs. Then where does your career take? Like, where does it take you? So you decide, I'm done with camming.
Yeah.
When did you make the decision? Was that when you made the decision, like, I'm completely done with anything sexual?
Yes.
Got it.
I think it was June 17th, 2017.
Were you nervous, like, in that decision?
No, because I gave myself a 1-year timeline, and I did it in 11 months.
What do you mean a 1-year timeline?
I only wanted to cam for 1 year. And if I didn't figure it out, that fucking sucks. I guess I have to move back into an efficiency.
Got it. So you're
don't wanna
saying
do
you
this.
gave yourself 1 year of like, you can rely on this like sexual aspect of your career, but once it's done.
Yeah.
And wait, when you're saying Austin, how did you end up in Austin? Because you're saying
everything happened in Miami. Got it. My worst years of my life were played out in Miami, Florida.
Do you ever go back there?
I went back once. Oh my God.
Is it like scary to go?
It's so scary. It also changes very fast.
Right.
I felt like, I mean, I only lived in Miami for 3 years, but I felt like an outsider going back.
Right. And it must be like kind of like PTSD a little.
Yes, yes. I'm very sensitive to number one, smells, and number two, places.
Right.
So anytime I drive by a place where like something happened or like I have a memory
It's
there.
like a visual trigger.
Yes, very. So being
That's-
back in Miami was like, oh God, there was streets I couldn't drive down. There was places I couldn't go to, food I couldn't order.
We said we're going to keep it vague, but toxic, manipulative relationships and men in your life, what do you think was like the reason you got into them and how did you get out of them?
I got into them because I didn't think highly of myself.
Right.
I thought that that was the best that I deserved. And even more than that, I thought, let me overextend myself and over deliver and over just do everything to the extreme to keep this person happy because they are the best that I can do.
Right.
I can't do any better.
How did you get out of like one of your most toxic relationships?
My most toxic one I actually got out of around the same exact time that I got out of porn because I came to the realization that these two things correlate.
Right.
And I would not be here if it wasn't for the other thing. So recognizing that made me it made me grow pretty fast because it made me realize a bunch of other things about myself and the decisions I make. But I think the most that I took away from it was I have not been thinking for myself and I have been making decisions with other people's best interest in mind, not my own. I've been trying to please people who aren't worthy of that instead of taking care of myself and standing up for myself.
Dude, that's so profound too, because when I think back to our conversation last night of you saying it went hand in hand with deciding you were done with porn, deciding you were done with a relationship, the way that you've spoken prior to like about that effect it had on your life, it also makes sense then like how you almost probably felt like so out of control of like wait and I feel like everyone may have those moments in your life where you go a little too far, like you're dating the bad boy for a little too long
And then you're in jail.
right, and literally, and then you're in jail, or you wake up and you're like, oh God, like I've been partying too hard and now I'm in jail, or I got a DUI. And like you went after the video came out, how long after did it take you to be like, what am I doing?
It took a month or two.
Yeah.
It took long enough for me to realize I'm being put in danger.
Yeah.
I'm just going along with what people want to do and I'm putting myself in danger. Like these aren't shackles. I don't have to be here. No one can force me to do this if I don't want to. And as soon as I realized that, I knew I could get out.
But do you feel like what the minute you knew you get out, and I guess that's where it almost goes then to what we had been talking about your job, like a lot of girls I feel like don't get out of it regardless of whether it's porn or a bad relationship, or maybe you're not happy where you are in your life at like a job or college, like the concept of getting out of something when you're so deeply, not only deeply ingrained, but then in your situation to the extreme of like, can I get out?
Yeah.
Where am I going if I get out?
Into an efficiency in North Miami. You're moving into the cockroach infested efficiency.
So
that's how you get out.
Right. And so then you're like, so that's what I'm trying to understand. Like as a young, you were 21.
Yeah.
As a
22.
As like a young female you don't have the finances to be like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm going to go get myself a nice apartment. A lot of girls usually cling to bad relationships or in your case, stay in something because they're like, I have nothing else. How low mentally you had to have been to then how strong you were to be like, as low as I am, I can't stay here. Yeah. Did you ever think once you went to the efficiency to be like, should I just go back?
No.
You didn't?
No. And I did absolutely nothing for a year. I didn't decide it wasn't even maybe I should go back. It was more so like I rationalized what camming was and I knew that I could do it from a place where I felt safe. I could do it from my home. I don't need to see anyone or interact with anyone and I can do what I want to do.
Right.
So I rationalize that as this is the best decision I can make for myself in my life right now. Now, I made the decision in a bad way. I could have completely done it on my own, but instead I went back to a place I should not have and worked for them.
Got it. People that that you had known
Yes.
prior.
And that was my biggest mistake.
I'm interested to know, because I think like the theme of loneliness, I'm sure, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe that was probably the loneliest time in your life.
Yeah.
Did you have any friends that, like, girlfriends at the time, or were you so isolated?
I was so isolated. I had no one but the guy I was dating at the time. And even then, my only friends were his friends. So I had no women. I had no girlfriends. I didn't really speak to anyone from back home.
Right.
My family wasn't talking to me. I just had these two dogs. I've had these two dogs since I was 18, 19.
Do you understand how that sounds? Like, I'm trying to, like, I have so much respect for you, because I'm like, you decide to leave the porn industry. Your family is not in your life at that point. You have a boyfriend that wasn't obviously the best decision. You're also saying, so like, you're alone. How did you mentally, where, like, you were just blacking out, like, how did you even cope with that? Like, I feel so, I want to give that girl a hug. I feel like any female man or female, like, being by yourself in that moment, having no one to turn to, no girlfriend you can call and cry to, like, who were you crying to? Yourself? And you're like, how did
Literally myself in that little efficiency on the IKEA bed. Like I spent so much time in my room just crying or going for drives because I felt pretty free being able to drive and having a car.
And at that time, did you go out in public and people knew who you were?
That was one of the things that made me feel even more isolated. I was so scared of going out in public because I was alone most of the time. I saw my boyfriend Saturday, Sunday. That was it. If I saw him that week, but I was alone most of the time. I was scared to go to the grocery store. I was scared to go do laundry. I was scared to go do anything that required me getting out of the confines of either a car or my four walls, because I had already been at that point followed to my car. Death threats, rape threats, everything you can think of. Like, thinking at the time being banned from my home country, like them literally saying you are not welcome back on our soil. Like, all of these things that made me feel like no one knows what I'm going through, and I don't want to tell anyone because I don't feel like the people I do talk to about it will be able to fathom what I mean when I say I feel alone. Like, I feel alone globally, not just like, oh, I'm lonely.
Right. It's not like I'm feeling lonely tonight.
Yeah. But it wasn't until I started talking about it that I realized so many people feel this way for so many different reasons.
Right.
You don't need to have Twitter completely against you or an entire army on the internet coming after you for you to feel this way. It can be something as small as
your family just looking like girls that or men, you have a family member that doesn't want to accept you and you feel lonely, or you have a bad relationship with your parents, or your friends, you lose a friend group, or you're in college and you find out that your best friend was talking shit on you, and now it's like, do I need to find a new friend group? Those are obviously lower to what your extreme was, but like the concept of feeling so alone and having no one to go to is something every single person listening to this podcast can relate to.
Everyone is fighting a battle that they feel like telling someone about they won't understand.
When I guess it's just fascinating to me, you being in that low place, because like I said, I have so much respect, like how we're now sitting in this amazing house. Like, what do you have anything you remember other than those drives are amazing that you're saying you took? Was there anything else that you would like have in your brain that kept you going? Like, did you have a goal, or did you have like what was in your mind of like, I am so alone globally and I'm getting banished from where I was literally born? Like, where did your head go to, like, what kept you going in those moments?
I don't know. My number one, my dogs. Like, what kept me alive and kept me from actually giving into thoughts that were entering my head was literally my dogs. I had no next of kin at that point. I thought, like, I had no one to take them. I was the reason that they would be alive every day. So they consumed my entire life. And that's why I love them so much, especially this one, my firstborn. You asked me yesterday, who's your favorite? I was like, oh, my this one. But like, who asks that?
Right. I know, but I had to ask. So your dogs, which like people can like laugh at, I think that's like very like reasonable. Are you kidding me? A bond with an animal absolutely makes sense.
My dogs and finding communities online. Like I found a
Oh.
little sports community, and I just found different places online that I felt like I could be myself and be at home. And I didn't really start to feel like I had a place in the world until I met my best friend in the entire world, Rachel, who,
Oh.
by the way, is freaking out that I'm on this show.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Shout out
Yes.
Rachel.
Shout out Rachel Ray. I fucking love you.
Wait,
But
Rachel Ray, not the chef.
Rachel Ray, not the chef,
Oh,
and
I
not
was
the girl that Jay-Z cheated with. Oh my God.
I was like,
that was her Instagram bio for the longest time.
Stop. Wait, that is actually amazing. I'm like, Rachel Ray? Like, really? Wow. Wait, how did you meet Rachel?
Online, on Twitter. We started DMing
Wow.
each other. One day we realized we were wearing she posted a picture on her Twitter, and then I posted one on mine, and we realized we were wearing the same thing. So we literally DM'd each other, should we move in together?
Stop.
And I said, yes, I'll move to Austin right now. So that is when I up and decided I'm moving to Austin. I have a life in Austin now. I have a friend. I have my first girlfriend in years.
Wait, that's so interesting because I'm going back to social media for a lot of people is the antithesis of everything. They're like, I hate it so much, it makes me feel small. At that point, it was your escape.
Completely.
Because you didn't have to leave your house.
It felt weird saying social media was my escape because
But
social media was probably
it's like the internet.
the spawn of most of my pain.
Right.
But
in the beginning when dude, the fact that you couldn't go outside and you felt so unsafe. Was it also safety, but was it also like not I don't know if it's the word paranoia, but like has that man watched my video? Like is he staring at me through my
100%.
clothes type shit?
My anxiety would completely take over, and I couldn't look anyone in the eyes without wondering, oh my God, do they know?
Right.
Do they know? Have they, yeah, those thoughts. Oh, like even being in this room right now, like that goes through my head.
Right.
And makes me feel uncomfortable to like walk by people or get too close.
Right.
Or like all of these things. Because
like wondering like, oh, have they Googled me before? Like, have they looked at my shit before? Like, is that something that like still stays with you today?
Yeah.
And you're working on that in therapy.
I am working on it.
Yeah.
I try and ground myself when my thoughts go to that. And I try and think, and?
Right. Yeah. Like what have you gotten in therapy from that? Like are you trying to get mentally when you go out? And because I imagine public settings for you, I understand now, like full PTSD, anxiety driven.
Yeah.
Has this person looked me up before? Not that there's any fucking thing wrong with it, but understanding that in the beginning, after that video came out, societal judgment and shame was put on you. You can feel however you want about it, and you can have your, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I wish I had. But for other people to place judgment on you, that's where I have the issue of like, why do people continue to bring it up? Nothing is changing from the decision you made, and to be the woman you are today, it frustrates me to see people still commenting on a decision you made 7 years ago. If we all fucking brought out our skeletons in the closet and continued to bring them up every fucking time you post a picture or something, it frustrates me that is one negative social media, that they can make things live forever that don't need to live forever.
Yeah.
People grow, people change. And again, like I said, you did nothing wrong. So I guess the Rachel, you finding a friend, because any daddy gang listening, like I think back to like you're saying you didn't have a girlfriend.
Oh, it was the first time I felt unconditional love in probably since I was a teenager.
So you meet online. Did she know who you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
We met on Twitter. Like she full on knew who I was. And
right.
From the beginning did not care. And from the beginning was my bulldog. And she was the only reason I was able to go out and enjoy things in Austin.
Wow.
Because for the first time in my life, I felt like I have someone in my corner if like something happens or if someone comes up to me and tries to do something or say something.
Right. Because prior to that, you had been fully alone, and then any man in your life was also had a hidden agenda. So trust also issues must be huge for you.
She really helped me rebuild my trust in people in general. And I think that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in a place in my life where I could have someone who deserved me.
Right. That's interesting. I think like it's so crazy because friendship is so underrated, because I feel like a lot of time in the podcast I'll talk about like who is your significant other.
Yeah.
And half the time you couldn't maybe have gotten to a place to have a significant other had you not found Rachel first.
Yep.
Because Rachel was showing you unconditional love, and I'm sure the relationship and the dynamic between you and men was so threatening to you mentally at the time from what you had just gone through. So then to have a female in your life, maybe that was like the best opportunity for you to like start to put your toe in the water of like, can I trust people now?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about with regard to your relationships. I know you had mentioned that you had a very toxic relationship that was you were young and whatever, and you felt like it was very strange, imbalanced relationship of him being older, you being younger.
I've been in 3 relationships in my life, including me and my husband right now.
Got it.
The first relationship I was ever in was the most naive facade of a relationship you could ever imagine. I don't even want to call it a relationship because I got married 4 days after my 18th birthday. Yeah, if a guy ever says you're mature for your age, fucking run. Run the other way and call the police probably, just to be safe.
Right, just to be safe,
to be
just
safe.
double. Oh, so someone used to say to you, you're mature for your age.
Oh my God, yeah. That is I'm too old for you, but I'm not cool enough for any girls my age, like the motto.
Belittling of you.
Yeah, no,
Right.
that is their motto. That's like what they wear on the patch that lets others know, hey, I'm a groomer.
Right, like I'm going for younger girls.
Yes.
And you're so mature for being a younger girl.
Yes. Oh, you're so
So-
mature for your age.
You started dating when you were 16?
Yes.
Oh, that's fucking young as
Yeah,
shit.
it was
So you
very
kind of were
young.
like unaware even of really what you
Yes.
were doing. Like
And then I was immediately thrown into the wife role and I need to please him, keep him, like do all of these things
Right.
to not make him lose attention or to not make him lose his focus on me.
right, his interest, yeah.
Yes, because I mean we talked about it yesterday.
But do you think that was half in your head, half the way he was treating you, or was it fully by the way he was treating you, or do you think it was still in that self-validation, like I need him to love me, love me, love me?
I think I was vulnerable enough
Right.
to where everything that he tried went through like a hot knife and butter.
Got it.
It was just too easy because I was so low mentally.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in myself. I didn't see anything special or worthy or important. And I let him tell me what I was worth.
Dude, that's like a deep ass statement because we talked about that last night. I remember we were standing in the kitchen and we talked about how unhappy you are with yourself directly affects the partners you choose.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have, you don't have to have a lot, but like friends around you. And that's probably why it was hard for you to get out of these things too, because like you said, you didn't have anyone to be like, hey, Mia.
Yeah, I was
like,
so isolated. He
but-
moved me across the country and I was in a completely different time zone than everyone else I ever knew. I was in a new place every like couple years. It was insane.
Do you have any advice for women that feel they are in because it's so fucking hard to see when it's toxic.
Oh, yeah.
And then the toxic becomes addicting and
Yeah.
you don't know how to then have a normal, healthy relationship. But do you have any advice for like one, like how to get out? Like it's not easy, like, and it's a process. And I know friends and family members who have been in toxic situations that it's like, it's okay if it takes you a year to first start self-actualizing and having the conversation. Like, how would it look if I leave him? And how would this, and your safety and what's going to happen? Like there's so many things that go into leaving, but for you specifically using your own story, like how could you help younger women or women that are married right now? Who fucking knows how old you are, young you are? How did you personally be like, enough is enough? Like, what was that journey for you looking like to get out of a toxic situation in a relationship?
Because I couldn't imagine going back to the way things were after I came to the realization of this is not me. This isn't what I want to do. And it'll be hard and scary. And I do not know what that road looks like at all.
Right.
I was fucking terrified, but I knew that I could not go back to that relationship because it would still be that same vicious cycle of
Right.
his perverse thoughts and his fetishes and all of
Yeah.
these things that I no longer wanted to be a part of or play into or placate or pretend like I had interest in.
Right.
Because at that point I realized you don't deserve me. I am better than you.
Yes, bitch.
Full judgment.
Yes, bitch.
I'm so much better than you.
Yes. Oh my God, I want to like cry.
But it's so hard to tell women like you're better than that. What you need is to
It's first working on yourself to even know what
Yes.
you need and who you are and what you're worth.
not just working on yourself, but talking to the people around you and not being stuck in that mindset of they're not going to understand if I tell them. they won't be able to comprehend the things that I'm going through.
Yeah.
Like, take that step. It's scary, but take that step and talk to people first.
A relationship I wanted to talk to you about in the sense of like unconventional sex and things that, you know, there are some girls that are like, hey, like my boyfriend wants me to peg him, is he gay? Like, you've had sexual relationships where, or a sexual relationship where you were like, oh, this was different.
Yes.
And the process of how it transpired and how it unfolded and him explaining to you what he wanted, can you explain that? Because I think it's no, we're not shaming anyone. It's almost like you want to explain the process of how it was presented to you.
Yeah.
And in an accepting way. Like, we want to talk about it. It's Call Her Daddy. Like, can you explain what that dynamic was sexually?
It was the most unconventional and eye-opening sexual dynamic I've ever been a part of. And
Okay.
I'm not going to say who the person was.
You don't need to.
But I do feel like it was very much a shared experience, and I was 50% of that.
Great.
And it then becomes one of my life experience as well. And I treasure it, and I'm still curious about it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about it because I've never talked about it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I had a relationship with a guy who was very curious about being the woman in the relationship.
Yep.
And dressing the part, acting the part, to the extent of me pegging him and
Right.
me playing the part of the man.
Yep.
And it started very gradually, like early in the relationship, testing the waters with just my underwear, and then it extended into my lingerie, and then it extended into getting him his own lingerie and his size, and then it went into full-on wardrobe and outfit and shoes and wigs, like really good quality wigs.
You're like, well, we're spending a lot on this. This is
Oh my
high
God,
quality
I spent
sex,
like
baby.
$400 on a wig once.
Holy shit. So and Mia, walk us through, because I remember you had said, like, how did he first engage, like how did he first let you know that he was interested in this? Like, it was so minor basic, right?
It was it was like very small steps.
Right.
And I think he at the same time was experimenting with it.
Right.
I don't think it was something that was...
He was also, you're saying, like, coming to this in his own, like he
Yeah.
had never fully gone
Yeah.
through this. So
we were very vocal with each other about what we wanted to try next and what he wanted to do next. And I just kind of was like,
down.
this is your safe space.
Right.
You tell me what you want to do next, and I will do what I can to make that a safe, comfortable, enjoyable experience for you. That ended up being the only relationship where I was cheated on in my life. Like, that was one of the worst relationships
Wait, the
of
guy that
my
you
life.
pegged?
Yes.
Wait, what an asshole.
Yes.
You give him the dick and he goes to find new dick?
Oh my God. Not only that. Do you know
Wait,
how
explain.
expensive fake boobs are?
No.
Not like
me.
my fake boobs, but like fake boobs to
Put on him?
to put on a man. Yeah.
You bought
I
him.
invested so much into that relationship.
I bought myself a dick and you tits, okay? And where does that get me cheated on? Wait, you bought him boobs.
Yes.
And you bought him wigs.
Yes.
Why were you buying it, not him? Just cause you had the money, or no?
Yeah.
You were just go to the store and get the shit.
Yeah. I
And
would
so-
go and like try it on and
Got it.
like the wigs and stuff.
So you were fully committed to this, which is great on you. And wait, didn't you say last night that was some of the best sex you had ever had, though?
Yes, because it was just it.
Like, all your inhibitions were both down, and
Yes.
you're just like, we're trying something so different.
When
here.
someone puts all of their guards down, and no pun intended, but they're right in front of you in probably the most vulnerable position they will ever be in their entire life,
Right.
you can't help but feel a connection.
There's something about going there, the vulnerability aspect.
Yes.
Like, sorry, but pegging your dude in front of you, like, that man is
Yeah.
on all fours.
I mean, that becomes a shared experience.
Exactly.
Like, what we did isn't just his experience. It
Both
was
of
also
you.
mine. And it made
Right.
me question things about myself. Like, I liked being in that male role. I
Right.
really thoroughly enjoyed that, like, genuinely. And
Right.
And I think I'm conscious enough now, like as old as I am after all the therapy I've been in, to recognize the difference between doing something to please a man and doing something that I also enjoyed.
Do you think that it had anything to do, and I could be reaching here, but do you think it also had anything to do with, like, you've been so out of control in some things in your life that, like, maybe it was kind of hot for you to be the one
I think a
fucking
lot
someone?
of people write it off as, oh, she's a boss at work, so she's
he's
you
a
know,
boss. He's
but
a boss
yeah.
at work, so now he wants to be, like, treated like
I think a lot of
submissive
people
and
write it
beg.
off as being that, but what I came face to face with was my own gender identity and like questioning who am I? Who do I
Right.
think I am? Like,
Oh,
Who
that's
do I
fascinating.
want to be? What role do I want to play? Do I want to be in a relationship with a woman where I can be slightly more masculine and enjoy that dynamic? And
Fascinating.
that opened my eyes to it. And therapy also opened my eyes to the possibility of that is probably the case.
Right.
It's not just, oh, I'm a
I'm a
boss
boss
at work.
Yeah, it's that's pretty surface
Yeah.
level too. Thought I that's fascinating. You had those thoughts prior to that relationship or no?
I was in a relationship with a woman when I was a teenager, and
Got it.
she was incredible. And I've always loved women.
Right.
I've never written off dating a woman, but it made me it made me question what type of relationship I would be in if I was in a relationship with a woman. And it made me realize I think I would want to play
The
not
more
play. I don't even know how to talk. This is
But,
actually
like-
my first time ever talking
No,
about it.
I appreciate it because I know so many men and women write in, and I think it was more of like, what would my role be?
Yeah, like what, it made me question what I want, whether I want to
Yeah.
be with a man or whether I want to be with a woman and feel that way. Because I really liked the tenderness that came along with taking care of the version
Right.
of him that we explored together.
I kind of love that too, that you're saying like you both were getting so much out of that dynamic.
Yeah,
And I think that's a huge point for sexual exploration to Daddy Gang listening. It has to be mutual.
yes, and you have to create a safe space for the person who is just being extra vulnerable.
Being the most vulnerable. Can we talk about the thing that I told you right before this interview?
What?
Malala. Daddy Gang.
Oh
this is
my God.
This is what I wanted to talk to her about, because I was saying, I wrote down, I was like, the question of how far do we let the public go in defining us as women before we take over and define ourselves. And I'm reading online before this interview, and I'm looking up that Pakistani education activist Malala, who is the youngest woman to just win a Nobel Peace Prize. You tweet at her?
No, I commented on her TikTok. And
So you comment on one of her TikToks saying queen.
yes.
And she
'Cause
comments
she had
back.
just recently created one.
And she comments back, and Mia didn't even know this until I sat
She
down
broke
today.
the news to me. I started freaking out. Wait, no, you sat down and you were like, "Can I ask you about Malala?" And I'm like, "Why? Why are we talking about Malala?"
I'm like, because of the article I was just reading and how she commented back to you, and she's getting scrutinized on the internet.
I think I got up, screamed, and ran for my phone.
The article discusses how she commented back to you and said, "My bestie," and was getting scrutinized on the internet for having any type of relation with you, and it frustrated me in the sense that, like, why are we the relationship between the two of you and who you are as women, that says so much to me about that relationship. Why is this woman getting scrutinized for something that happened in your past 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, that makes no fucking sense to me. And so I thought that article was profound in the sense of, like, people on the internet just want to bring up negative shit to bring up negative shit.
Yep.
You have two unbelievably educated women who are, yes, in their careers doing different things, but at the end of the day, the fact that she has respect for you and you have respect for her, and then there's people shitting on her for associating with you, like, how has that affected you mentally? In, like, have you had issues with people not wanting to work with you, or like backlash? Like, explain that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I've been rejected from a lot of female hosted podcasts. Like, oh, not brand safe. Sorry. Like,
Oh, well, on Call Her Daddy here, sweetheart, we don't focus on brand safe. We focus on real and authentic people.
we focus
with
on
genuine
not
stories.
losing our sponsors every week.
Yeah. Well, thankfully I have sponsors that trust me, so here we go. Thank God. But no, I know what you're saying. So people have turned you away.
I've had brands turn me away. I've had podcast hosts turn me away. I've had people tell other people not to associate with me because of my past. Like, I'm very used to having that door shut in my face, but it hurts a little bit more when it comes from women, and it hurts a little, like, it hurts even more when I see other women getting shit for interacting with me. Like, Mina Harris started getting shit for following me on Twitter, and I started to have imposter syndrome. Like, oh yeah, this woman is a badass leader, and her female voice is so incredible and impactful. I should probably just deactivate my Twitter. I'm not worthy of having a follow from her. embarrassed for anything that's ever been on my Twitter, anything I've ever said, because I don't want to disappoint this person. And this person is like clean and untouched. And you know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, I think Mia, one, she clearly sees something in you. She made the decision to follow you. No one forced her to follow you. So give yourself a little bit more credit, because seriously, like, she followed you for a reason. Also, like, thinking about how I've changed as a person in the past year, past 2 years, past 3 years, not saying that you need to change and like we need to wipe clean anything you've done nothing
No,
wrong.
it's not change, it's growth.
Right,
That's what we've
right,
done. We've gotten
right.
older, we've grown, we've learned. We see a version of ourselves that we
Right.
want to be, and we go after it.
And to be put down, like, mine is on such a smaller scale, so I never want to compare, but like,
Bitch, you run the biggest podcast in the world.
no, but like, we talked about this last night. I was like, I have had, in the beginning, before it got big, my family, people were looking at my family like, your daughter is a slut. Your daughter is talking about blowjobs. Your daughter is blah, 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 blah. And my mom got frustrated because the only comments that were ever made was like, what does her father think? What does her dad think?
Yep.
What is it about my dad? What's the difference? My mother birthed me.
Oh my
Why are they
gosh.
so focused on the daughter to father dynamic? And it's just because of societal stigma that people have put on that the dad must be so disgraced that the daughter, and it's like, what the fuck?
You just encapsulated Middle Eastern female issues in one fell swoop.
Really?
Yeah, that was insane. The first thing that an Arab woman gets asked is, what family are you from? Who's your father? Like, anytime someone sees them doing something haram or just not up to their standards, the first thing they're asked is, what family do you come from? And it's like, what does it matter what family? I don't speak for them. They don't speak for me. I am my own person.
It doesn't matter what what does that have to do with my family? Same thing
Like,
as
they need to judge your entire lineage based on the decisions they are watching you make.
and then it goes now to someone following you on Twitter. Now it goes all the way to that, to be like, why does someone following you, that doesn't mean that person believes everything you do.
Yeah.
But why? It's just so crazy to me. Like, and I think it's been frustrating as females to sometimes like try to have a voice and then be, if we have any type of sexual, like, if I talk vocally, sexually, if I have this podcast, people can't fully take us seriously when we talk about sex or we have had a sexual past. Like, first of all, fuck all of you, because you've all had sex. You're alive because your parents were fucking. Maybe I have a sex tape somewhere that's going to come out. Am I not allowed to do something because, like, Mia has porn? Oh my God, so that defines you for the rest of your life? It really aggravates me to think about like the dynamic of how something in your past can continue to, like, people are saying, haunt you. Why?
Oh, I mean, it goes both ways too. It's either it haunts me, like, how dare you have done that? Or I get shit for doing anything I do now. Like, I'm on OnlyFans doing non-nude and people are mad at me for, number one, not being nude, or number two, having the audacity to be on a site like OnlyFans and not do nude content.
Wait, can you explain that? Yeah, what is one, how did you decide not to post nude content on OnlyFans?
I just haven't done nude content. I was on Patreon before, and I just decided to switch platforms. I was tired of Patreon. It wasn't user-friendly. I hated running it. It was too much work. I just decided to do what I was doing on Patreon, but on a different platform. And I didn't think much of it. And the reason I switched to OnlyFans is, honestly, it was meant to just be I needed to raise $100,000 to send to the Lebanese Red Cross after the Beirut blast. And I thought, OnlyFans, everyone's on OnlyFans. It'll be the best way to make money. And then I got shit for using money I made off OnlyFans to donate to the Lebanese Red Cross. People were like, how dare you send this dirty whore money to Lebanon? We don't need this. Like, what?
Wait, what? So
You
it's like
need
you can't do
spam.
anything.
You're not in a position to pick and choose where the money is coming from.
Yeah, what? Like, you are graciously offering.
The lira is worth like a fraction of a cent. You have no place to sit and nitpick where the money is coming from to the Lebanese Red Cross.
Did they accept the money?
That's not on them. The Lebanese Red Cross donate to the Lebanese Red Cross.
Holy shit.
They'll accept money from anyone. It wasn't the people who were actually in charge of getting it. It was backlash from Lebanese people. Now, there was also a lot of support and a lot of appreciation from Lebanese people. But what I'm saying is, you cannot please
Anyone.
You can't please anyone.
It's like Mia's like, I'm going to use my OnlyFans and I'm going to take all my money, $100,000, and I'm going to put it to an amazing cause. And then they're like, that's disgusting, Mia. That's from OnlyFans. As you're not stripping, you're not doing. And if you were fucking putting a dildo in your pussy, who gives a shit? You're giving to an organization, and it's like a cause that you are passionate about. How has your relationship? We're swerving here, but like, I'll go back to OnlyFans in a second. How has your relationship after being banned? You were banned from Lebanon for how long?
Until they decided that, I was allowed to come back recently.
Right. Okay. And
my relationship with my home country has changed 180 in the last year. And it was after the Beirut blast that people really started to realize what is important in life. Like everyone was taking stock of things in their life. And I think a lot of people were just more open-minded. We were all just in a mindset of, we're Lebanese. We need to protect each other. We
like
need
family.
to support each other.
Yep.
Exactly. Like there's not many of us, and even our own are trying to kill us. Like we have to stick together. And that is when the conversation around me and Lebanon changed. And I'm so thankful for it, because I think that has to do with why I feel like I'm in such a good place in my life.
Can you explain to me, what is your career right now, and like where are you kind of like seeing it going?
I'm in a weird place in my career right now where I can take it any direction I want, and I'm so fortunate for that. I have so many exciting things ahead, but right now I'm loving being on OnlyFans. I'm seriously loving it, and it's not just me being on there that I'm enjoying. I'm really enjoying learning about the sex work community and getting to know sex workers and hearing all of these different people's stories and their experience in the industry. And I think it's very, very important to acknowledge that sex workers need to be treated better and need to have more protection. But I also think it's important to acknowledge the amount of grooming that takes place online when people start glamorizing the industry and porn and being a sugar baby and all of these things that are really detrimental for young women who are watching and listening and looking for an out, honestly, and seeing someone post like that and instantly think, this is my escape, because it's not. I don't encourage people to go into the sex work industry, but I also will like die to protect people who are in it, especially in the last year, like just getting to know so many sex workers and people who basically taught me how to be on OnlyFans, because for as much as I'm considered a sex worker, I know fucking nothing about the industry, and I want to learn, because I think it's irresponsible for me to be this quote unquote face of it, for better or worse, and not know what's going on with the people who are actually in the industry.
That's fascinating, because I respect you a lot for saying that you've at one point really tried to take yourself out of that world. And now being on OnlyFans and knowing there are sex workers on there, you do want to continue to educate yourself on a world you were previously fully ingrained in, took yourself out of. And now I remember seeing you doing an interview, and you had said even just something as different as adjusting when say it's a porn company is handing a young girl a contract, kind of like what we were joking about in the perpetuity aspect. When you're handing a young girl a contract, just as simple as she's not allowed to sign it that day. Yeah. What about even just instilling that type of rule, just because, like you said, you're sitting there with men staring at you as you're about to sign this contract. The word perpetuity is on there. You don't know what it means, but they're staring at you and you're feeling a little bit like, I guess I should just sign this because there's 3 men staring at me. And like, I don't understand half of these words, and it's like embarrassing, and you don't feel like you just are like, I guess I should sign it. For it to almost be instilled that like, there needs to be some type of guidance. There needs to be a lawyer in the room to help someone understand what they're signing.
There needs to be protection, because if the industry is allowed to target 18-year-old girls, those girls need protection in place.
As young females or males, signing something that you don't have an understanding of is detrimental, especially when you're in your adolescent age of your brain is still forming. How are you going to make a smart decision when you don't even understand what's in front of you?
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many things. It's going to be cool to see what happens with our relationship, because we had talked about about last night, the whole like child pornography thing and like what happens when you're younger. And if a girl, I didn't realize that when a girl's picture, if she takes a nudes and sends it to her boyfriend, most of the time they don't prosecute if it gets spread around because the underage female also gets prosecuted
for distribution of underage porn.
Even though it's her in the picture.
It's a double-edged sword.
So no,
these girls are backed, their back is against a wall because they can't report their image being circulated and sent around by the guy they sent it to, because then they would be admitting to procuring, distributing, taking underage pornography.
How is that even?
It's so fucked up.
That's like, what did we say last night? We're like, let's put our suits on. What will we wear?
We need to write a bill,
right?
Alex.
Can you imagine?
We need to get, yes, I can.
Daddy Gang is like, this
part.
episode has taken a turn. Mia and Alex are talking about passing a bill. We will be there in our nice suits.
We are going to be legislators.
Mia, I think sitting down with you has been one of my favorite interviews, just because I can tell how you are genuinely authentic, so smart, so educated, but also with your past, to be sitting with you today, you can tell you've done the work. Like you can tell that you have been through an experience, but it's kind of, as much as I said last night, like, although you would maybe take it back when you were younger, like, would you be sitting here had all this not happened? You know what I mean?
No, I think that I would take back the reason why I made the decisions I made.
Yep.
But man, it made me grow up very fast.
Yeah.
For better or worse, it made me grow up. I did not get to have the same early 20s as most people my age. And I don't know if I regret that, because I think that I would be in a different place at 28 than I am now if I did.
I think to hear the way you talk about your husband and to hear the way that you talk about your life right now, my friend Lauren and I are so corny recently, but we keep saying, I really do believe everything happens for a reason. You may not have met him. We may not even be sitting here. You know what I mean? And so to look at the positives of at what one point in your life was the darkest place in your life, to see the woman you are today and to meeting you. And I feel like I've learned so much from you already. And this is the second day I've hung out with you. It's inspiring, honestly, to be in your presence. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on Call Her Daddy. I'm cheering up. Thank you for coming on Call Her Daddy. I'm excited to see where your journey takes you in your career.
Me too. And I'm excited to see where we end up. I feel like we're already friends.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you for putting out the things that you put out, because you have no idea who you're inspiring and how much you're inspiring them.
Thank you.
You made me feel like I can literally do anything I want. I can start a podcast if I want. Like, I cannot believe she's doing it on her own, editing it, writing it, doing everything on her own, and also dealing with all of this shit she's dealing with.
Yeah.
Facing the internet, sitting in front of a camera with amazing lighting and talking about all of it.
Amazing lighting. God, it took a minute to get that.
That apartment had great windows.
It did. Great windows, great exposure.
I love the way you had your wall set up.
Yeah,
with all of the
shelves, the
brick,
so the whole. Yeah, we love it. No, thank you, Mia.
I have chills just like talking about that video. You seriously made me feel like, oh my God, anything is possible.
Thank you, Mia. You've been amazing. Daddy Gang, go show her love. Tag yourself where they find you.
Daddy Gang.
It's just Mia Khalifa. Go follow her on all things social media. Go subscribe to her OnlyFans so she can continue to use her money for good.
I love you.
I love you. Okay. How long was that?